Hey guys, thanks for joining me in this bonus video where I will quickly demonstrate how I might apply the tools taught in the class to build some shapes and more specifically toppings for my pizza. So this project file is actually available in the project panel, so if you want to follow along with me, you can download this and make your own toppings for your own pizza. So feel free to have fun with that. Definitely experiment with more than what I'll demonstrate here. Definitely make your favorite type of pizza. I will not be making my favorite type of pizza, but I will demonstrate some different ways to use these tools. I'm going to go pretty quick through this, but everything that I'm doing here was explained in the class. Alright, so the first thing that I am going to do is I'm going to create a pepperoni. So I'm going to hit L on my keyboard and I create a simple pepperoni. I'm going to give it a fill of some sort of brownish red, maybe like that, and maybe I'll give it a stroke that is a similar color but slightly darker. Okay, so I got my pepperoni. It's looking a little too red. Okay, there we go. Alright, so what can I do with this? Is I can first Alt drag it down, move it to the back, and then I can give that a color, a darker color. Like that. Okay. Alright. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I want to give it a little bit of texture in the center parts, so I will copy and paste the top shape and I will drag it and make a small little shape. I'm going to remove from it the outline. I'm going to give it a little bit lighter, make it a little bit lighter like that, and I'm going to copy and paste it and Alt drag to the left bottom. And I'm going to select those two shapes, the copied shape and the copy and drag shape, and we're going to hit minus front. And then I'm going to give this a little darker so it sort of gives the impression of a shadow that's being cast in. It's sort of dipped down into the pepperoni. So I'm going to select both of those shapes and group them together, and I'm going to spread them out on my pepperoni. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. I can group that pepperoni and I can Alt drag it onto my pizza. Alt drag it onto my pizza so it stays there. And it's a pretty big pizza, I think, so we're going to put some pepperonis. There we go. What's the next one we can do? Let's do another round one. Let's do a tomato. So hitting L on my keyboard, I'm going to start with a circle. I'm going to give it a red. Like that, pretty bright red, and then I'm going to copy and paste, bring it in a bit, in slightly, make it a little darker at first, copy and paste, and bring it in slightly again, and make this one lighter, like that, too yellow. Okay. And make it back there. Okay, the next thing that I want to do is I want to actually hit M on my keyboard and draw out a square from the center in. Now I want to make an intersection of these two shapes, so I'm going to hit intersect. So now I have this. I'm going to reduce the size of it a little bit, holding Alt and Shift, and I'm going to hit A on my keyboard and use the live corners function. Ooh. Okay, round those corners, round all the corners like that. And then I'm going to hit R on my keyboard with it selected, select the center of all my circles, Alt drag it, and Command D. So now you can see that the tomato is forming, but tomatoes sometimes have seeds. I'm going to hit L, make a little ellipse, and lighten that up a little bit, like that. Still a little red. Okay, so we got a little seed there. And we'll drag out a few seeds and group those together. Next thing that I want to do is I want to hit R on my keyboard with them selected, hit the center, Alt drag them, and Command D. Okay, so we have our seeds there, we have our shape. Now we'll give it some perspective. Let's just bring everything down to about the same size as our example here. And we're going to give it some depth. So I'm going to grab the bottom shape and I will Alt drag it down. And I'll just darken it a little bit and bring it to the back. So it gave it a little bit of depth there. So I'm going to select all of them, group them together, and let's scatter these tomatoes on the pizza. Let's put one there. Perfect. Okay, what's next for the pizza, guys? I don't know what your favorite toppings are, but we're going to do some simple one. Let's do a olive. Very simple olive. We're going to make an ellipse. We're going to copy that ellipse, bring it in. Bring it in, and I'm going to exclude. So we have this olive. I'm going to give it black, slightly lighter than black. And I'm going to drop it down like that and make it full black. Bring it to the back like that. The next thing that I can do to make this connected, one thing I could do is use the blend tool, but since it's such a simple shape, all I need to do is from one corner to another, make a rectangle of the same color as my bottom, duplicate that rectangle, put it on the other side, connecting to the edge, and then just merge that with my bottom shape, or unite it with my bottom shape, and bring everything to the back. And now you can see it is a three-dimensional sort of form. Okay, I'm going to group everything, and I'm going to drag it and place it on my pizza. That's a very large olive. I'm going to shrink it down a bit and just spread out some olives on my pizza. Okay, so we got an olive, pepperoni, tomato pizza. Let's bring one olive back. Now let's do a little more complicated one. Let's do a green pepper. Okay, so how am I going to make a green pepper? It's sort of wavy on the outside, and it has a hole in the middle. So for the wavy part, actually the shape I would use is probably the star tool. I'm going to start with a star tool. Okay, that was a polygon tool, my bad. I'm going to start with a star tool. I'm going to hold Control to bring it in slightly so it's not so much like that. Okay, and I'm going to hit A on my keyboard and I'm going to round all the edges. Okay, so that sort of looks like a top-down view of a pepper. The next thing that I can do is I can give it color, and then I can copy and paste it once, and I'm going to cut this out. So I'm going to hit minus front. So now I have an outline. I'm going to select the outline, copy and paste in front, and I'm going to bring this one in, and I'm going to give this a different color, sort of the inside part of the pepper, just like that. Next thing that I want to do is I'm going to actually make these ones, actually group this, and we're going to give it some perspective. So for this one, pretty easily, I can just drop it down like that, and I gave it some perspective. The next thing that I want to do is I want to give it some depth. So since this has multiple colors in it, I want to make a blend of it. So I'm going to copy and paste, and then I'm going to Alt drag it down. I'm going to bring that bottom dragged part, I'm going to bring the one I just dragged down right to the bottom of it. Okay, so I have my top copied and my bottom, and I'm going to hit W on my keyboard and make a blend. Okay, so now you can see they're starting to blend together. The next thing that I want to do is hit Alt and bring up my blend options and increase it to maybe 50. Let's preview that. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to darken it slightly because it's sort of in shadow. I'm going to hit Edit Color, and I'm just going to go Edit Color and just bring back the lightness of the whole thing just a little bit. And now you can see that it's dark. I'm going to bring it behind the top layer. Now you can see that it sort of has a little shadow going underneath, and it is the similar colors just darkened a little bit. So that's really cool. What I want to do now is I don't want it to remain a blend, so I'm going to go into Object and Expand. The next thing I want to do is I want to make it one shape. So I am going to merge it. Since it has multiple colors, I don't want to unite it or else it all becomes one color. But if I merge it, all light colors will be merged together. So now you can see that it is one solid shape with two different colors. Okay, so it's looking pretty good. I'm going to group everything together, and I'm going to bring it up to my pizza. Maybe shrink this pepper down a little bit, just like that. Yeah, different sizes of pepper. Scatter them around. Okay, we have two more sections. Let's do a pineapple. So how do I want to make a pineapple? Let's start with an M tool. And I'm going to hit A and select the bottom ones. I'm going to hit S for the scale and just bring them in a little bit. Sort of like a wedge. I'm going to give it a yellow, because pineapples are yellow. Very bright yellow. And I want to give it some lines down the center. So how do I do that? I'm just going to hit M on my keyboard and give this a slightly darker yellow. And maybe make 3 of them like that. And Control D to do that. Now I want to cut off the top parts and the bottom parts. So one way I can do that is I can select everything, hit divide, enter into it by double clicking and select the top parts and the bottom parts and just delete them. The next thing I want to do is I want to bring them into it a little bit. So I'm going to select them all, hit Alt, and just pull them in there. So it gives it a little bit of depth and texture. I'm going to exit out by double clicking outside the shape. Now it's one group. And I want to give it some perspective, but I don't want it just straight up and down like this. I want it sort of angled slightly. But if I try to give it perspective like that, it doesn't really work. So the way I need to do it is I'm going to hit E on my keyboard to bring up the transform tool. And now I can actually skew, use the side to skew it if I wanted to. Like that. So I can skew it however I see fit. So maybe something like that. Okay, I'm going to hit V to bring in my selection tool. Now I want to give it a little bit of depth. I want to drop it down a little bit. So again, I'm going to copy everything, Control C, Control Shift V, and I'm going to Alt drag it down. And then I'm going to select both of them. First, I want to bring the bottom one to the bottom, select both of them, and hit the blend tool, W, and blend options, and specified steps. I'm going to give it 50 again. I'm going to hit OK, so now you can see it blended all together. Next thing that I want to do is I want to recolor it, edit colors, and just bring a little bit of darkness in there, just like that. I can bring it to the back, and now you can see that it is shaded. Alright, afterwards, I want to merge it all together. So I'm going to select my blend, I'm going to hit Object, Expand, and I'm going to merge all light colors together. Beautiful. And it gave it a little bit of texture, no problem, hardly noticeable. Alright, I'm going to group it all together, and we got our pineapple. Let's put that giant pineapple on that pizza. Okay, we'll shrink it down a bit, and we have some pineapples on the pizza. Perfect. Alright, let's see. The last thing I want to do is I want to make a simple garnish. So I want to make some leaves. So I'm just going to hit L on my keyboard, make it green of some sort like that, bring it over, and I'm going to want this center part, so I'm going to hit intersect. Okay, I made a nice leaf. I'm going to copy and paste in front, and I'm going to just bring it in and make a little stem in the center. Beautiful. going to group that, and I'm going to select it, hit R on my keyboard, select the bottom, and rotate it along itself. Okay, perfect. Next thing that I want to do, give it a little perspective. So I'll just drop it down. And now I don't want them to be flat. So what I can do is I can hit A on my keyboard, and I can use the direct selection tool to sort of change the leaf's form a little bit. So I can do that. I can bring this down and sort of warp it a little bit to where I see fit, just so it's not super perfect. Okay, that looks pretty good though. Next thing that I want to do, I want slight shadow underneath it. So I'm going to select everything, Control C, Control V, and because I am only going to see one color underneath, I'm going to just merge all those shapes together and drag them down slightly and bring them to the back. Okay, so now you can see there's a little bit of a rim underneath the leaves. Alright, so I'm going to select them all, group them all together, and we have a little bit of a thing there. A leaf garnish. We got a little leaf garnish to top the pizza. Now what I want to do is I want to actually make all the shapes sort of cast a shadow, just like we see the cheese is sort of casting a little shadow. So how can we do that? Easy way. Let's just select all our toppings. We're going to copy them and paste them in front. Control C, Control Shift V. And then what we want to do is we are going to unite all of them together so they're all one color and one shape. So they all turn green because the topmost layer was the leaf. But if I hit I on my keyboard and I select the cheese shadow color, that'll be selected and it is now the cheese shadow color. All I need to do is I need to offset it a little bit over to the left side and bring it to the back behind all my other shapes. And look at that. We have a pizza and all the toppings look like they're settled in on top of the pizza. Alright guys, so that is how you make toppings for your pizza in Adobe Illustrator. I thank you so much for joining me through this adventure of making a pizza in Adobe Illustrator. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. Definitely try and experiment with different toppings or different illustrations in general. So post whatever experiments you do in the project panel, and I look forward to seeing every single one of them. Thank you guys so much for taking the class. See ya.